This is Horror Sucks, the podcast where we watch terrible horror movies so you don't have to. And this week, we're going to tell you why The Wicker Man sucks. I'm Ashley Atkins, and I checked something off my bucket list this weekend.
And I've watched Under the Dome in the past 48 hours, so that makes two of us.
And who are you? That's Carter.
Yeah, I'm Carter. Usually I like to say that, but yes, I am Carter Rhodes, fellow co-star. I just got really excited about Under the Dome.
I don't know why.
So, you clearly wanted to talk about something with your bucket list. What did you do today?
I did not today, this weekend. We went to the International Cryptozoology Museum, which I have been patiently waiting for the last 2 months when I figured it out. It's in Portland, Maine. Finally went up there and explored it. And I will say it was a lot more eclectic than I envisioned, but it made it so much better.
It was a lot of fun. I liked it. We got a lot of great photos.
Yes. There was some great, what are they called?
Photos.
No.
Statues.
Thank you. Yes.
Exhibits.
Yeah, there were some great, like, life-size creatures, I guess, to take pictures with. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
So, today we are here to talk about The Wicker Man, 2006, starring Nicolas Cage. But before we do, I would like to talk about one of my new favorite hobbies. This is not a sponsored thing. One of my new favorite things is watching clips of TV shows on YouTube that I have no interest in seeing. Recently, it's been The Boys. It's been what an end to a season. And I'm kind of getting into Fleabag.
Hold on. So you've never actually watched The Boys, you just watch clips.
I've seen an episode or two here and there out of order, but I have no interest in watching it. I already have enough on my to-watch list.
But you watch clips of it on YouTube?
Yes, I know how the season ended.
Okay.
I get the general theme.
Okay.
I don't know, it's interesting. I get to stay up to date without dedicating that much time. It was a really good season of The Boys. Fleabag, in general, I mean, I've only been watching Best Of. I have no idea what happens in that show, but there's a lot of great, like, one-liners.
I've heard good things about Fleabag, but I haven't gotten around to it yet.
There's this one scene in which the titular Fleabag is talking to this woman who had a bad haircut, and so they go to yell at her barber, and they yell at him for a while, and then he shows them the reference that she gave him, and it's exactly the same.
You know, I have seen that particular scene, and that's the only thing I've seen from Fleabag. It's a great scene.
So I recommend, if you have been meaning to watch a show, just look up Best Of that show on YouTube, and there you go. I don't understand how I do this when I also, like, review media, but
I don't know.
I guess sometimes it's nice to just not have to put any thought into it whatsoever. Speaking of not having to think while watching a movie, Ashley, why don't you tell us? Oh, wait, let's run through what we do here.
Yeah, I guess I'll do that. Buckle up. We're gonna kind of just review what we do. So we start off with the plot of the movie, then we'll follow that up with some fun facts. Then we will break it down for you in our segment called The Good, the Bad, and the Spooky. Self-explanatory. And then we will wrap it up. We will top it off with the Joseph DeStasio memorial line.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. And then we will finish it off with our overall impressions as well as our unique ratings that will be revealed at the end. And anything else, Dad?
Nope.
Excellent.
So why don't you tell us what The Wicker Man was about?
Nicolas Cage plays Edward Mullane. What was the name?
Mullen, I think. I'm pretty sure it's Mullen.
It's Malus.
Keep going.
Nicolas Cage plays a police officer named Edward Malus. And he gets a letter from... Do I need to mention the car crash? No. Okay.
It's worth mentioning, yeah. Because we'll talk about it.
True. So he witnesses a car crash while on patrol that haunts him, and he takes off some time from work. He receives a letter from his ex-fiancée stating that her daughter is missing and that she needs his help to find him, and that they live on a secluded island named Summer's Isle. So he goes there where he's clearly not welcome. Summer's Isle is a society run by women where men's only role is for procreation, and that's pretty much it. He, continues to search the island but doesn't find her until the very end, when there's a fertility festival where he believes that Rowan is going to be sacrificed during.
To help the crops harvest.
Yes, yeah, to improve the harvest, because the previous harvest was the worst of all. I forget what the exact words are. It doesn't matter.
The worst harvest on record.
Thank you, yes. So he steals a bear costume to infiltrate this. The bear costume is important.
Yeah, no, that wasn't why I was laughing.
He steals a bear costume to infiltrate this festival where when he walks up with it, they come up to Rowan tied to a tree. So he breaks out of formation, grabs her, and takes off. But then she runs away from him and leads him back to the festival, where it's revealed that he is the one to be sacrificed and that his fate was sealed when he and Willow first got together, because they need a stranger who is tied to them to appease the gods. So they hoist him up into this giant man made out of wicker and set it on fire, and you can hear his screams of agony as we then cut to the city where one of the other women from this village, community, cult.
Village worked.
And she is restarting the cycle looking for a new Wicker Man.
Now for some facts. The film is a 2006 horror movie directed by Neil LaBute. It is a remake of a 1973 film starring Christopher Lee. And I don't remember his name, but both the director and Christopher Lee have ordered anything they have to do with it to be scrubbed. They just both disavowed the movie. The director, I believe, made a cameo, and that was cut because he insisted. They thought it was terrible. Christopher Lee, I didn't write down what he said, but he had some interest. He was just clearly against the concept of remakes in general. So, fun fact, if you watch this movie on Amazon, when you finish watching it, Amazon will say, hey, if you liked this movie, you might like Mothman Prophecies and Troll 2.
Honestly, Mothman Prophecies tracks.
It is a very Mothman movie.
Very similar slow plot.
Mm-hmm. Nicolas Cage, beginning early in his career with and admittedly this is entirely speculation, but I believe it was fueled by a cocaine addiction. Entirely speculation. Don't you dare take me as a primary source on this. But
there's just some big words, Carter.
He went deep into debt buying shit like 22 automobiles, including 9 Rolls Royces. He bought a dinosaur skull, which later turned out to be stolen, so he returned it to the Mongolian authorities. He bought the most haunted house in America. He purchased one of the largest real estate deals in Rhode Island history. So he went deep into debt, and very recently, in 2022, I believe, confirmed that he has paid off all of his debts and that going forward, he's not going to factor in money as much in making his film decisions, which is why there was that decade and a half where Nick Cage was in The Magician's Apprentice, Face Off, just every trash you could think of. And that's part of where his reputation as a trash actor came from, is he was in a lot of bad stuff trying to make money and didn't give a shit. Like, no one wins an Oscar if they're a bad actor. It just doesn't happen. He's good. But anyway, that might give you some context into why Nick Cage is running around in a bear costume in this movie, punching women, screaming about bees. Shouting, why's it burned? Why's it burned? So, interestingly enough, Nicolas Cage takes offense whenever people call this movie unintentionally funny. He says it was very intentional. It was meant to be sort of a black comedy. I didn't really pick up on that, but I do think that's interesting.
I think he was the only one in on that because honestly, I think looking at his performance, he was definitely acting as if this was a black comedy, but no one else in the film was. Yeah. And I loved it.
I was not ready for that take of this movie you're in is so bad it's funny. No, it's not. It was meant to be funny. Like, oh, okay. So some other fun facts. Winona Ryder actually turned down the role of Willow.
Good.
Yes. Because she read the script and said, fuck no. Nick Cage punches out 3 women in this movie. Amazon cut the bees scene.
Oh, which scene was that?
We'll watch it, don't worry.
Oh, thank God.
And...
you told me there was a bees scene, and I was like... I watched and I was like, I'm missing something.
Don't worry, I'll play it for you before we get into...
Okay, I'm glad it wasn't me.
And then lastly, when he was asked what roles from his career he'd like to revisit, Nicolas Cage said that he wanted to go back with The Wicker Man. And he said, I would like to hook up with one of the great Japanese filmmakers, like the master that made Ringu, and would like to take The Wicker Man to Japan. Except this time he's a ghost.
No. I'm gonna stop you right here. No. If anything, he should be revisiting his character from Moonstruck.
So, fun fact, Nicolas Cage, whose name is spelled Nicolas, no H or K, his birth name is Nicholas Kim Coppola.
I did know that.
Yeah, he was the relative. I don't remember exactly what he was, but he's the relative of Francis Ford Coppola.
Yes.
And his stage name is Nicolas Cage because he didn't want, people to just think that he coasted by on his
Did you know that Martin Sheen's real name is not Martin Sheen?
Is it Martin Scorsese?
No, it is, his last name is Estevez, and I forget his first name. Yeah, that's a stage name.
So wait a minute. So his stage name, you said Martin Sheen?
Yeah.
So then his son, Charlie...
also took a stage name, but his other son didn't take a stage name. Hold on, I'm gonna pull
Emilio Estevez?
Yeah.
You're shitting me!
No.
That was just word association! Oh my god!
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So Martin Sheen's real name is Ramon Antonio Gerardo Estevez. His children are Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez.
Oh my god.
Renee Estevez, and Ramon Estevez.
That's ridiculous. I just thought, who's the only Estevez I know? It could just have likely have been someone I met in my personal life with that last name. That was pure word association.
But no. Yeah, that to me is the wildest name change. But anyways.
So we are going to get into the good, the bad, and the spooky. But first, I'm going to show Ashley the bees scene. And depending on how funny the audio of this is, I might leave it in. The good. Dun, dun, dun. Let's talk about the good. So, one of the few good scenes in this movie. I've seen this movie before, and I've said that there are only two good scenes. The first is the beginning, where the people get hit by a car. I'll explain that later. And the second is the end, where Nick Cage gets beaten with hammers to break his legs. And then they put some kind of helmet on him and fill it with bees, which is where he gets his line, "No, not the bees, not the bees!"
I'm so upset by this that Amazon cut it out.
It wasn't like... I don't think it was a sincerely good scene, but I don't want it in there for meme reasons. It was the payoff of the movie, and they just straight up cut it. As soon as the people swarm him, it just cuts to them dragging him to the Wicker Man.
Well, they do keep the audio from the scene, except for the bees part, where you can hear them
Kathunking him.
breaking his legs and him, yes, kathunking him and him screaming, "No!" But they're all just like walking, and it's like the worst thing ever.
Yeah. But it's not even like it was that good of a scene, but it was so necessary as the payoff of it was such a slow movie This turned into bad. We're criticizing the fact that's not there.
Well, we're criticizing the fact that it's not there versus the fact that it should be there.
Yeah. So that was one of the only good parts of the movie, and they cut it, and I'll never forgive you.
So disappointed.
I don't know if Amazon did that. It might have been just like the re-release or something.
Maybe. But I'm going to blame Jeff Bezos, personally.
So the first thing I would like to highlight is Nicolas Cage's acting. He does... It's kind of a weird how good a job he does of capturing these really nuanced emotions. Like in the beginning when he's with his partner and the guy looks and he's kind of just flipping through postcards. They did a really good job of establishing his character as kind of a socially awkward loner who just didn't feel like he fit in. It was incredible. He didn't say a word to do it.
No, it was great.
He's constantly getting these self-help tapes. It's like The Power of Being Okay or something.
It was just everything's okay.
And he was really like defensive about them. Like he was like, did someone move my tapes? I need my tapes.
I think he just wanted them.
Well, it really did capture a guy who was not happy. And it was a very subtle, nuanced character that he was doing. I was going to say,
it's someone who's not happy without them coming out, I'm super depressed right now.
Right.
He just,
There's clearly a hole in his life that was left when Willow left.
Right.
And they didn't need to go on something about how sad he is after his girlfriend left. We knew as soon as we saw him, he was missing something. That was incredible.
Good. They do a good job of capturing that.
He's always been good at this, but there are a couple of sarcastic lines, and his sarcasm is outstanding.
He does deliver. I put Nick Cage equals perfection.
Yeah.
I adore him.
I was a big fan of a lot of the foreshadowing of the movie.
I did pick up on that.
I don't know if you picked up on one specific line, but he's like looking around and this woman is like, stop, you can't go in there. And he goes, bear with me.
I didn't pick up on that one. Maybe I did. No, but there was a lot of foreshadowing.
They're just collecting wood throughout the movie, and it's like ramping up towards the end. It was really great tension.
Yeah. They also, the red sweater was thread throughout. There was, some of it was like super subtle that it was really nice to notice versus the other ones that were like really obvious. But I think the obvious ones told you to pay attention. So, no, I liked it.
And in a similar vein, the symbolism was really good. Like the scene in which he kills a bee. Or I suppose that was more foreshadowing, is when he killed a bee, everyone got really...
But that was a really good one.
...tense, and that was a way of showing that the community found the bees to be sacred without explicitly saying it.
It also introduced his allergy, and I think they did it really well.
Exactly, yeah. There's a scene in which they show an overhead shot of the bee fields, I guess you'd call them, where they have the honeycomb set up, and the paths are cut into honeycomb shapes. It's really cool looking. And lastly, the very society itself is very bee themed. Like there's the queen that everyone answers to. They constantly are referring to their community as like a colony. They just use a lot of bee language. It was very interesting.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. On top of that, too, just the overall setting, costuming, aesthetic of the island, the community, the colony was really good. Like, it all made sense. It tied really well together, and it set a really good scene. Like, it was a good image of, oh, I understand exactly how these people operate, everything. It was good.
At the end when they're all in their animal costumes, that was terrifying.
Yeah, we'll get more into that later.
I felt like the island was really well established. There wasn't any one person that was stonewalling him. He just felt unwelcome from the moment he arrived. Everyone he spoke to was as unhelpful as possible, and it really felt like a complete unwelcoming thing instead of like, oh, if you could just talk to someone else. It felt like true there was no one on the island he could talk to that would help him.
Even like there was another girl who works in, I'm still going to call it the inn because that's what makes most sense visually. And she like actually does talk to him and is kind of nice to him, but even she won't give him details. Like
she attacked him at the end.
She does attack, which I didn't understand why.
Because she never was, first of all, to set up the line, she says, when you leave, can you take me with you? And then she attacks him later. And then in the end, she's the woman who talks to James Franco and says, he was like an extra. It was wild.
Yeah.
She's like, so where are you going after this bar? And he goes, I'm going home. And she goes, when you leave, can you take me with you? Even though it didn't make much sense the first time, but sure.
It was lame.
I liked the completing of the cycle, but it was clearly introduced just to do that.
Yeah. But she was like kind of flirty with him, but when any time he like asked for more than just generic things, she would like avoid the question or say, I already answered that. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, you didn't. Yeah. So yeah, no, he definitely felt very isolated. And in turn, we as watchers of the movie felt isolated too. Mm-hmm. I liked it.
I really liked the bears scene. Not much to elaborate on. Just loved Nick Cage running around punching people in the face dressed as a bear. It was the goofiest bear costume you've ever seen in your entire life. Picture, it looked like the guy from Midsommar, except way sillier.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It looked like a Wish Halloween costume of the guy from Midsommar.
That's a good comparison.
I also really liked when they were hoisting him up into the Wicker Man. The camera was upside down as it was getting raised, and he's passing all of these animals that are also in the Wicker Man to be sacrificed. That was a really cool shot.
I liked that. So overall, I did like the idea of the plot. Mm-hmm. The plot was okay. It would, we'll get into it. Wasn't great about it, but I liked the idea of it. And I'm sure, and I know it sticks pretty closely to the original, which is probably why it's pretty decent. Yeah. And we should probably watch that. But
I've heard that one described as the Citizen Kane of horror, so maybe we should watch it.
Yeah, I've heard it's good. But I did like it. Like it was easy. It was kind of easy to follow. Like you knew what was happening. I also really liked the idea of a woman-led society where man's only purpose is to procreate. And they established that very early on in the worst way possible. But we'll get into that. I thought they did a really good job of what that would look like without too much, I guess. Mm-hmm.
I did like that in their interpretation of this female-led society, they did show men as, like, they insisted that, no, men are equal. Like, you just think that that they're subservient because we just don't bow down to them. But they did actually clearly treat men like a serving class.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd say they were treated poorly. They're just not treated as first-class citizens.
It's interesting because it could be interpreted that they were relegated in this movie the way a lot of women are relegated in other movies as, like, background characters. They literally don't speak. They don't even drive the plot. They could be replaced by lamps. Yeah. So it's an interesting, not saying I don't like it, I just thought it was an interesting turn. Mm-hmm. They call that the sexy lamp, by the way, is your female character is not good if they can be replaced by a sexy lamp.
Good Lord.
That's one of my collectibles is just the different tests to see if you've come up with a good female character. The Bechdel test, I guess I can't think of any others than there's like the fridge test where no.
I've never heard of that one.
That one's based off like test. Aquaman or something stupid. It's like he had a girlfriend whose only purpose was to die to drive his plot forward. Believe it or not, fucking Patch Adams, the movie, had that.
Shut up.
The guy's girlfriend existed pretty much only to make him sad when she was murdered. It was weird.
The other thing I liked was, I mean, the manipulation of the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're thinking like the plot is pretty predictable. Mm-hmm. So you're, you know, watching the movie going, man, they put a lot of thought into this, that everyone is on the same page. And at one point at the very end, Nick Cage breaks into this woman's house and she's got like her child next to her with a mask on. And he's like, take that mask off. And she takes it off, and then he's like, barges into the house, and she's like, where do you think you're going? And he's like, I'm in charge here, not you. And then he goes into the bedroom and opens the boudoir, and a child just kind of flops out like she's dead. But then she just kind of looks up and laughs at him, and they all start laughing at him. Everyone is in on this.
I think the implication was supposed to be that they were playing hide and seek or some innocent game. That being said, they were absolutely in on it, but it wasn't like just a prank type thing.
You're right. I think they might have been playing hide and seek, but when she saw him open the door, like, it was clearly a prank on him. Mm-hmm. And but then the mother, like, who was frantic the previous minute, was just like laughing at him manically the minute that happened. And I just felt like it was a good way to represent that every single person is in on it. It's well orchestrated, like, foolproof. Nothing could go wrong. So I really liked it. Even Willow says, like, we planned it all out. Everything.
For you.
Yeah. Oh, my God. That killed me.
Aren't you happy, Nick Cage?
Who is clearly miserable.
I really liked the teacher. She was the right amount of spooky. Yeah. She was, when he walked in, he's like, I'm trying to find this girl that's missing. She goes, how quixotic. And he's like, excuse me? And she goes, quixotic, from Don Quixote. It means pursuing lofty ideals, often disastrously. Later in the movie, she kind of bikes by, like right at the climax. He's running around trying to find his daughter before what he believes she's going to be burned. And she goes, still tilting those windmills, eh? It was just, she was more intelligent than him, and the fact that she just took so much pleasure from it was a little spooky. I liked it.
No, I loved her character. I felt
she clearly had so many like secrets that she just wouldn't tell him.
She did such a good job of revealing the fact that she knows more than him without telling him that she knows more than him. Even besides her shaming him, the way she was looking, the way she would like go stoic and then kind of smirk, and then it just was all like bled well together in her character. On top of it too, like when she says, she missays her words on purpose, but it was so melodic. It was perfect because she says she'll be burned. And he goes, what'd you say?
He goes, how did she die? And she goes, she'll burn to death.
Yeah.
And he goes, what was that? And she goes, I said exactly what I meant. She burned to death. Yeah. Even though it was clearly future tense.
It was good though. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed it.
It's worth noting that several times he physically like she's trying to stop him from going through her desk. And he physically overpowers her. Same with the bike. It was just another interesting take on gender, is that he was stronger than her, but she still clearly had all of the power because she knew things that he didn't. She knew he was going straight for a trap.
I also do think she let him overpower her with strength. But even knowing she still held the power, she was like, I know when to, not yield to a man, but she just knew when to let him win, because she knew if she didn't put up some sort of fight trying to stop him to look for this, like he would catch on that things were too easy. So she had to make it challenging, but she didn't have to make it so challenging. Like she still needed him to do the things he needed to do to unravel himself as well.
Yeah, I loved her. She just every time I saw her, like the skin on the back of my neck, like I knew she was trouble.
Listen, she wasn't like the best part of it though, like she wasn't a creepy looking character. She was very beautiful and very alluring. Like you wanted to look at her, but then anything she said, did, whatever, it was like this, hair would just kind of start standing up,
I mean, she was brunette, so you knew you couldn't trust her, but otherwise she looked very normal.
In a society of mostly blondes, you're right.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about them. They were. God, it was like 90% blonde.
Yeah.
They were going for that kind of low genetic diversity.
Yes.
Like everyone, very Nordic. Everyone's tall, blonde, pale.
You could tell.
Mm-hmm.
At one
But
point,
that wasn't what I meant. What I meant is you can't trust brunettes.
okay. How would you describe yourself?
I would say I'm dirty blonde.
In this light?
If we go into pitch black, Ashley, we both will have black hair. Anyway, what else do you have to say about the good?
Well, I was gonna say some of the dialogue overall was pretty good.
Okay. No, don't look at my reaction. Keep going.
No. I felt like a lot of the conversations made sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, there was a lot of ridiculousness that clogged it up, but like, for example, the teacher, any conversation with the teacher, other conversations that were good. I can't think of them.
Is this your last note?
Yeah.
Okay, because I do have... This is a perfect transition. Now it's time to talk about... the bad. So much of the dialogue, though. I understand that there were some good lines, like we talked about quixotic.
Yeah.
There were some good lines, but so much of it was just filler words. Like... There's the one scene in which Nick Cage opens the door to a police friend of his, and she goes, "So," he's like, "That just about says it, doesn't it?"
That's true.
They would just be like, "Where did you, do the, It was just like 90% of the words they said were just nothing.
That scene was particularly bad and useless, except for to establish the fact that they didn't find who did it. Which, honestly, they could have shortened the movie by 5 minutes and have him ask that when he goes into the police station.
Mm-hmm. The number of times he didn't even finish his thought and would just be like, where was the last time you...
Oh.
And there was just no sentence there. He just kind of said words, and then other characters would say words. Nothing was revealed. No one became more human or revealed any emotion. It was like the least interesting sentence in a book. Is just... The dialogue served no purpose except to move the characters along. True,
but I do think for the most part, like, it kind of made sense. Like, I don't know. I think that it was filler? Yes. Do I think some of the conversations, I don't know. To me, I interpreted them as, like, if I was this person, I would be saying these things. So, like, it made sense to me.
I didn't think it was unrealistic. I thought it was boring to listen to in a movie. Like,
okay.
That was probably how people sound talking.
Yeah.
It was probably pretty realistic. It just isn't interesting.
That being said, though, I did think this movie was super dull and drawn out.
Yeah. It was just so much talking about nothing. Like, they had a whole dialogue thing where he's talking to the woman we talked about earlier about... where she was like, "When you go, take me with you." They had a whole conversation about, he said something like, "What are you doing the day of tomorrow?" She's like, "Do you mean the day after tomorrow?" And he goes, "Yeah." She goes, "That was a weird way to say it."
That's true.
And I'm only slightly paraphrasing. There was so much just nothing happening throughout the entire movie.
I think I heard one line of dialogue and went, "Huh, this is pretty good."
Yeah. On top of that, like, so many scenes took way too long to build up. There was so much was just him walking through wilderness, doing nothing.
There was like one scene that it was a montage,
mm-hmm.
and that was fine. But then it was followed up by him not in a montage, walking through the wilderness.
Like, the literal point of a montage is to show the passage of time without making it obnoxious for the viewer. And they defeat the purpose of it. On top of that, one of the things that really bothered me, though, was the cell phone. Throughout the movie, it was not ad nauseum, but it was quite often Nicolas Cage would take out his phone to see if he had service, if he could call the mainland, and there was never any service. But they built it up so well that when he was going through the woods with his daughter, with Rowan, his phone rang, and immediately I thought, oh shit, Like, he finally has service. They built it up so well. And then he goes, hello, and there was no one there, and it was another wasted scene. He put his phone back in his pocket and kept running. That pisses me off so much, because they built it up. They managed your expectations perfectly. You didn't see it coming, and then finally it just the ringtone, you knew the significance of it.
I wish... So they could have had the call cut out. I wish there was more to the call.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wish he heard another person on the other end of the phone and started to tell them and have it cut out.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the same way it was on the ferry where he's making the call. He's like, you're never going to believe this. And then it cuts out. Mm-hmm. I wish they had something similar. That would have been a good build up.
Agreed.
You know, because it would have given us a little bit more hope than just a phone ringing.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I also agree, especially since they established even before he got there that this is one of the things that he comes out and blatantly tells us, that there is no service on the island, yet he constantly tries to use his phone.
Which is why I liked that it kept setting up, like, it felt pointless every time, and it really did feel like hope when his phone rang.
Yeah. It could have, I wish it was his friend. Was it Charlie? I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
his police friend, that he would like, oh my God, you have to help me. And he goes, what's wrong? And as he starts to tell him, it cuts.
Yeah.
That would have been everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of the things that, I don't know if it really bothered me that much, or just like I caught on real fast. This movie's very predictable.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the ending from as soon as he got on the island, that this was a trap,
mm-hmm.
that, you know... Oh, we didn't tell people there were spoilers in the plot.
They're gonna know. Like, there's no... I'm sorry, but there's just... It's a nice thing we do, but I will laugh at someone if they're mad that they watched Carter and Ashley review Wicker Man. Like, hey, this 2006 movie has spoilers.
Fair.
You know what I did say spoiler alert for?
What?
Last week, whenever it was, I talked about Black Phone.
Oh yeah,
like, that's gonna be in theaters when the episode comes out. I said spoilers for that because someone somewhere probably doesn't want to hear the spoilers for it. I think they're a fool for thinking this movie will be good, but
fair. That is a good point. But anyways,
what were we saying?
The movie was super predictable.
Yeah.
As soon as he got on the island, I was like, this girl's fine, and that this is just a trap to get him there,
mm-hmm.
probably to sacrifice him. Like, I couldn't tell you exactly what would have happened, but I knew by the end he was the one.
He was the Wicker Man.
Yeah, they did tell us that pretty early on.
Yeah.
But even still,
it just was like the plot was just a ton of barely related events happening. Nothing led to anything else, as he just walks around seeing stuff and talking to people until he lucks into finding the girl. It wasn't like he followed a trail. It wasn't like he pursued leads. It's just things happened to him and then it was over.
There's a reason he's not a detective.
It's explicitly mentioned earlier that he's not a detective.
But that does bring me to my next point, which is that there are a lot of things that are never explained. Or, some actions don't make sense. For example, the accident is never fully explained.
Ooh, can we talk about the accident?
We can take a break and talk about the accident.
Okay. Let me grab a beer first.
This is horrific.
You want me to use my teeth? Because I'll do it.
Please don't.
So
Sorry, we have a small break to tell this story.
So we're going to cut it so you guys won't know, but I just got him to get a beer, and the conversation naturally led itself to this point. But my sister has long nails, and Ashley...
She's acrylics, for the ladies listening.
Ashley, while intoxicated, presumably, was over my house and watched as my sister Maddie walked into the fridge, pulled out a Spindrift, opened it with her fucking teeth, and walked away.
I need to describe this for the listeners, because I don't think they fully understand how she opened it with her teeth. Her front teeth hooked on...
That wasn't my teeth, I swear to God.
He knows I would kill him. she like uses her. I think I was a little intoxicated, but she like puts her front teeth under the thing to try and like open it. And I waited an appropriate 3 days before I said something to Carter because I was so scarred by watching her do this, and I was like, I'm not gonna say anything. I can't say anything. It would be weird if I said something. And finally I was like, hey, we need to chat about this thing I witnessed at your house. Your sister's wild.
Ashley texted me that day. I was early in the morning, like 4 a.m. or something. I woke up dehydrated because I get serious night sweats, and so I go downstairs. Maddie's either just waking up or just coming home or something. I go downstairs. I get like 2 Spindrifts, put them in the fridge, fill up a glass of water. Maddie walks in, goes for a Spindrift, and I go, hey, Maddie, like I just seconds ago put that in there. Like it's so not... This isn't like it's only been in there 20 minutes, like literally seconds ago. And she pries it open with her teeth and walks away. And I just stand there like staring off into the distance. And I'm like, man, this dehydration hallucinations are fucking with me. This is bad. I just like finished off the water, got more, went back to bed and woke up and Ashley said, hey, so we should talk about how your sister... And I was like, were you in the room with me?
No, I was just traumatized separately. But then we did confront her about it, and she's like, I have long nails. And I was like, that's not an excuse.
Yeah, Ashley has long nails too.
These are my real nails, though.
Yeah, fair. But I'm like, Maddie, I have multiple devices on my person.
You can use a credit card, any card.
I literally have a specialized device for opening cans where the tab is too close because I chew my nails, so I constantly can't open things.
You can also just, it's a little harder, but you can just not use your nails.
You can use any number of things.
Including just the side of your finger.
Anything other than the body fucking horror that is jamming your teeth under the tab of a can to open it. God, that was bad.
I really hope Maddie listens to this episode.
Oh, she won't. I hope she does, but she won't. What were we going to talk about? The train wreck scene, which is ironic. Car crash. So, I don't know. There's no trains in this movie.
No.
So, that's another thing on the bad list. No trains. So, the movie, it starts with Nick Cage kind of driving around, pulling people over for no real reason. And this one girl drops her doll as he's following the mom. So he picks up the doll, pulls her over to give the girl back the doll, and she throws it. So he turns around, he's like, oh, let me grab it, walks over, grabs it, turns back around, and a fucking semi just BAM! Clobbers the car. They both go flying off a ridge. He runs over, the car instantly bursts into flames. He tries to break the windshield to get to the girl who's still alive, and then the car fucking explodes in this insane escalation of violence. And then it hard cuts to the credits, and it's like, The Wicker Man.
So, what drives me crazy, number one, about the car crash, I'm sorry, that car would have been... The car was pretty intact when he goes over to help them. I know for a fact the speed that truck went at that car, it would have been smashed just by the sheer force.
Yeah.
But no. It also hit them from the back, and the back is completely fine.
Oh, no, it hit them from the front. I remember that. Don't worry.
Okay.
But yeah, that wouldn't have been fine. And by the way, the keen-eyed listeners would notice that Ashley earlier mentioned he saw a girl on a boat get hit by a truck. Now, what that was a dream hallucination in which he saw a girl on a boat, very clearly on a boat.
A girl in a red sweater with pigtails, who the girl in the car also had a red sweater and pigtails, and the picture that he has of Rowan also has a red sweater and pigtails.
So he's looking at this girl on a boat. I cannot stress this enough. And he sees a train come out of nowhere and just clock her on a boat.
A truck.
Did I say train again?
Yeah.
Another knock on this movie. Still no trains.
To be honest, though, like usually scenes like that where you just see it's usually a train. Because in my mind, I also think train.
Trains are just a lot of trucks tied together.
Yes, exactly. They're the same.
Throughout the movie, there was a ton of like callbacks and nightmares to that scene, which wasn't a very powerful scene to begin with. No. He was just constantly like having the classic fake wake up, which I fucking hate.
Did it twice.
Where he'll wake up and be like, oh, what a bad dream. Oh no, I'm still dreaming. They did that twice. That's 4 dreams.
The worst part was the second one wasn't even like him waking up. It was a hallucination followed by a second hallucination to which he then takes some pills. That was also another thing on my list. The hallucinations are awful. They're so bad. I can't.
I do have to say, though, one of my favorite fuck-ups, I guess I'd call it, in movies are when they portray psychosis as the kind of illness you reactively take a pill for. Like, to the best of my knowledge, the only mental illness that you can just reactively take a pill for is anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, you can't feel sad and take an antidepressant. You can't see something and take an antipsychotic. So it doesn't fucking work like that.
So it could be said that it's probably anxiety that is producing these hallucinations, and that I don't have a degree in psychology to say any of this. It was a poor... If that's the case... Please refer to the really smart thing I said during Scream about this exact same situation.
If that's the case, it was a very poor creative decision to literally portray your stress as a hallucination for this reason.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different movies that have portrayed panic in a really good way. I remember I really liked Ted Lasso. His panic attacks are very visceral. Like the audio starts to die down and he just has this like feeling of I can't be here. And it really is conveyed well to the viewer. And hallucinating doesn't convey panic. And so it's clearly
I was just making a good argument for why he was taking the medication, even though it's not necessary. Yep. Overall, either way, it's bad.
Also, if you're hallucinating, I'm just going to assume you're taking medicine. You don't need to show me the viewer.
I mean...
unless the character doesn't seem to... I'm trying to think of a movie I can say which won't spoil it. Unless the character seems to think the hallucination is real, I just assume that they see it too. Like,
yeah. Let's get back to what else is never... let's get back to the accident, though. Okay. It's never actually explained how it fits in with the plot, except for the fact that we find out at the end that the woman and child that were in the car are part of the community.
Were they?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I only noticed it the second time watching it because he's in the mob and like everyone's kind of demasked, but then he looks over at like one group of people and they take their mask off, and I'm pretty sure that it's the mom and the kid.
Well, they were dead, so that would have been a hallucination.
Maybe it was. No, they never found the bodies.
They were definitely dead, Ashley.
Listen. Well, then maybe that was
they found I'm pretty sure they found the bodies, but they didn't identify them.
No. The woman cop says, "Oh, we never found the bodies."
Okay. Then that's a thing on my bad list, if that's true.
It just is never explained, though. So let's for imagine, say I didn't just say that and that they're not in that scene. Why did the accident happen? Like, they were clearly...
It was clearly just a random act of violence. Like, it...
Okay, so now let's go back to, if they were in that scene, though, why did this happen?
Because of an insanely, over-complex orchestrated event where they faked the death of 2 people that this dude wouldn't know because they hoped that he would follow a doll and return it to a girl. That makes way less sense to me than the movie decided to have a random act of violence that made him feel reconnected to his past.
Okay, sure.
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying that it would be stupid for them to do it the other way.
We already brought up that we don't understand why the blonde server attacks him at the very end.
I just accept that as like just the people on the island don't like him. Why not?
But they want him to go to the ceremony.
Yeah.
So what is the point?
I don't know. To have Nick Cage beat up more women. I was talking to my mom, like, she did attack him, but then Nick Cage, like, punches the woman, and I'm like, at this point, he has knocked out 2 women in the same room, and I'm like, at a certain point, this is just Nicolas Cage beating up women, like,
because
like, it wasn't a fair fight. He knocked her ass out.
Right. And then it's followed up by another scene of him knocking out a woman with his fists. But that was in a bear costume, so it's way better.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Cage didn't do that. The bear did that.
Right.
So, on that note, one of the worst parts of this movie was Nicolas Cage's acting. Yes, he made the good and the bad.
Yeah,
he is constantly mumbling. His character will just fly off the rails and be like, I'm sorry. I'm so stressed. It's okay. It just crazy mood swings. There's
okay.
When he was
I
getting,
would like to reference every single Nick Cage movie ever.
Yeah. When he was getting burned, he's like, no, ah, no, ah!
The screaming was awful.
It was the worst thing I've ever heard. There was, of course, the how to get burned, and then the star of the movie. No, not the bees. It's in my eyes now. It was awful. And I mean, I don't blame him for not giving a shit in this movie.
No.
or sorry, he probably did try for hamming it up a little bit.
He wanted it to be a black comedy.
Yeah.
And therefore, while these moments are bad, we are laughing.
Yeah. If he didn't do this, we just simply wouldn't know this movie. It would just be bad.
While his acting is bad, it truly makes the movie better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's done with intention. That is just is.
The unforgivable thing for me, though, is the combination of his mumbling and the boring dialogue. So he'll be like, so it's just the way it is, huh? And I'm like, what the fuck? There's like 8 words in there, all of which are like as and so. I'm like, what?
To be honest, my dad mumbles so much that I didn't even notice the mumbling because that is just what I'm used to hearing. I can translate mumble like nobody else. Looks at my microphone as if it's my dad because I know he's listening.
So, a couple of quick final notes. The movie just way overuses a fucking fade cut, and it's awful. It that scene in Star Wars where the scene just swipes to the left, and it was like, oh, cool. Imagine if it did that literally every cut. That's kind of what it felt like. Overall, it really had a horrible grasp on horror. Like, they tried to do creepy stuff by having these twins talk in unison, which was way over the top. They were like old twins, too. That was weird. There was a scene in which he, as a build-up to like a jump scare, he's looking around a barn, and then he falls through the floor.
Yeah.
Because it's like rotted wood. But instead of portraying it as like the relief, like, it's not a jump scare, he just fell, it's okay. They acted like that was conflict. And as he's like scrambling up off of one story, it's hay below him. Like, he'll survive. He'll not only survive, he'll go wee as he lands.
He'll be more than fine.
He'll have fun. He'll climb back up and do it again. And they're doing it like, is he gonna make it? Instead of what it should have been of a like, oh shit, I thought something else was gonna happen.
Yeah. That whole scene was just not great.
Yeah.
On top of that, though, as part of the really bad edits, the worst edit is the one on the Amazon where, so I know I mentioned this before, but you have to understand that I put this on my bad list unknowing that this was a post-release decision that they made, which was to cut out the scene where Nicolas Cage gets mutilated and instead just have it as a voiceover as they're walking him to The Wicker Man, and it was just god awful because you just hear fuck. Ah!
Yeah.
I'm not like you people, and it's like, what the frick? It really bothered me.
The scene too was like they broke his legs with a hammer.
It's not
and
that
and then
graphic.
they put a bee thing on his head, so he got stung. Yeah, it's terrible. I'd hate for it to happen to me, but. Like Misery starring what's her name? That actress we love. Misery starring Kathy Bates.
Thank you, Kathy Bates.
Is
such a phenomenal movie.
I love it.
She takes a sledgehammer and breaks his foot, and you see it, but it's also not graphic.
Yeah, his leg turns at a terrible angle, accompanying with the sound. It's awful. Like, it's great horror. It's not that bad. Like, No one's getting their movie taken down because of this leg breaking scene, and that goes double for The Wicker Man, which is way tamer too.
Oh yeah,
like,
you don't even
cuts away and you just hear a crunch noise.
Honestly, if anything, I would say the shots where they are underneath the hammer and you see the hammer coming down was pretty good.
Yeah,
I liked those.
It wasn't bad. I'm floored that anyone's idea was to remove that scene.
I'm pissed off that they removed it but still kept the dialogue. They could have done it without keeping that dialogue in and I would have been fine. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't add to the movie either. It makes a lot more sense seeing that scene now because he looks really messed up, including bee stings on his face, and I was like, where did those come from?
It was really funny.
Yeah.
Like, just all of a sudden he looks like shit.
Yeah.
Especially because, without showing the violence, it implies that they were just like kicking his ass on the way.
Yeah.
It just, the payoff was so important for the movie because there was so much build up and there really was no payoff otherwise, except for a little bit of violence. And that's why the extreme violence at the end was important.
I agree.
There was also a lot of exposition, just really ham-handed. Just like, I'm writing to you, even though we haven't talked and spoken in 6 years when I ran away. I'm like, whatever, dude.
Yeah. You can say, I know it's been a while, but...
Even that is too much. Like,
give him something.
Yeah. Also, the characters are they're just unlikable. Like, Willow... It doesn't act like a grieving mother. She kind of just acts difficult. Nick Cage is going through severe mood swings.
Ridiculous. Also, can we talk about the worst thing in the movie? The kiss between Nick Cage and Willow is horrific. Their eyes are open. They're so uncomfortable. Listen, I did middle school theater, and every single kiss I've witnessed then way better than this.
I've seen Christian youth kiss Miss Massachusetts more passionately than this scene. It was my mom said, "What is he trying to smell her hair while they kissed?" Because it didn't look like their lips were going to touch until they did.
They also just didn't look at each other. They went in for the kiss looking off into let's do it. It was awful. I was like, jeez. Mm-hmm. It was rough. I thought it was hilarious. All right. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Are you ready to talk about the spooky?
I'm ready.
Awesome. The spooky!
So, I know can I start?
Yes.
I know you already brought up the blind twins.
Mm-hmm.
When they first were introduced, I thought they were spooky in that meeting, but then they brought them back to talk to Nick Cage, and it ruined it.
Yeah.
So I was disappointed. But the actual things I thought were spooky was when Nick Cage is in the doctor's house. There's a doctor on the commune, which is good. But she's got these jars of, and it's a typical doctor thing, eclectic doctor thing to have jars of preserved specimens. But there was a lot of them were fetuses. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that. And that to me was kind of spooky because it just it really emphasized their fertility mission of the group. So I thought that was kind of spooky the way they were all just kind of lined up.
That's true. I didn't even think about how that tied into the symbolism of it. Mm-hmm. My spooky scene took up maybe rounding up 6 seconds of screen time. But the only note I had was when the pilot disappeared and they found him with his mouth and eyes sewn shut. The practical effects of that were chilling. It looked like a corpse. It looked Ari Aster. I love whenever they direct a movie, they just have this style of practical effects that I love. It's just a little step removed from Hollywood, and that makes it look a little bit more real. It was just like that. I loved it. It looked like a corpse. It didn't look like...
It was good.
It looked like a mangled corpse. And then another thing I liked was the kind of cruelty of when they were beating him is they stung him with beads, and then they took his EpiPen and revived him so that he wouldn't die of anaphylactic shock.
That was pretty intense.
It was a little chilling that the doctor was there making sure that he wouldn't die until they were ready.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
I enjoyed that. So the other thing that I got two more things. They weren't necessarily outright spooky, but they definitely spooked me a little. So when he goes back to Summer Isle's house, he opens a door and there's a woman sitting, presumably nude, just covered in bees.
Oh, yeah, that was weird.
Smiling. Her deadpan smile, though, I thought it was pretty spooky. It really got me. But then we cut to Sister Summer's Isle, and she's just in this gigantic bed, laying out like she's waiting. And honestly, the combination of the two spooked me. I was like, ooh, I'm ready for something good. Like, it was a spooky build up to nothing, but I liked it. The bees especially were spooky.
Mm-hmm. So for my overall notes, the pacing is terrible. Moves way too slowly for what's just a run-of-the-mill mislead. It's so disconnected, like just random things happen and then it dies. It drags out for so long, and it just is truly, from the bottom of my heart, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I don't even have anything insightful to say about it. It was so unfun to watch.
So
you can't. There's so many movies that you can get drunk and have a blast watching with your friends.
This is not one of them.
Nothing happens.
But I will say, if you're like half asleep, want to put something on that maybe will make you fall back asleep, this is the movie. So I love a good cult film. Mm-hmm. And while they never outwardly say this is a cult, it's a cult. But honestly, this movie just falls flat.
I do want to say 3 people have compared it to Midsommar, and
I was just gonna. I'm not gonna compare it. I'm
like,
just gonna say
blonde women.
No, there's so
blonde pagan.
They have said that the original inspired Midsommar.
That's fair.
Especially, there's the parallel of the bear.
That's true.
Them luring someone to sacrifice them.
Okay, I take it back. I can see now why the original might have inspired.
Yeah, I'm not. It's
Midsommar.
not. Also, they put them in something to then burn.
Yeah, you're right.
There's more than one similarity.
Yeah,
but
I take it back.
Honestly, though, just watch that movie instead.
Yeah, please.
That's all I have to say. Really, that's a good horror movie.
Speaking of a Maddie-themed episode, she was just in Sweden visiting her friend to celebrate Midsummer.
How was it? Did she tell you about it?
She didn't, but how crazy is that she saw the movie recently. Yeah. She saw Midsummer, and then her friend's like, "Hey, do you want to celebrate Midsummer here?" And she goes, "Yes."
I think I would still say yes, though.
This makes a lot more sense when you consider the fact that one time someone successfully got her within kidnapping range by saying, "Can you help me find my puppy?" And it just luckily turned out that they were in fact looking for their puppy.
Oh, thank God.
But I was like, Maddie, that's literally the brand name kidnapping excuse. That's the one that we explicitly warn you about. So the Joseph DeStasio Memorial Line highlight. This is probably the best one yet. It's, "Oh no, not the bees, not the bees. Ah, oh, they're in my eyes, ah, ah."
I am disappointed that you did not use a different quote. While I understand why you chose that quote, without seeing that portion of the movie, can I give you my Joseph DeStasio? I probably should have gone first because I think that quote is better. But when Nick Cage walks into the classroom and the teacher, without seeing him, goes, "Will you tell us what man represents in its purest form?" And a set of twins go, phallic symbol, in unison, both times. And Nick Cage from the back goes, "Man, school has really changed since I was in it."
And then he looks at the camera and waits for the laughter.
It was awful.
It was sitcom delivery.
Honestly, though, I only had actually written the phallic symbol down, but I felt the Nick Cage response was worth noting.
Okay. Are you ready to talk about your rating? Because I'm ready. You go first.
Okay, so I gave it a 5.5 jars of fetuses.
Oh, that's a good one. So, with the B scene, I gave it a 4 punched women. But without the B scene, it is a single one Franco brother.
Wow.
There is literally, without the B scene, there's one scene in the movie worth watching, and then like 6 seconds of a spooky scene towards the end, and that's
Fair.
it. It's terrible. There's so little redeeming stuff.
Honestly, I'm glad I watched it twice, though, because the first time watching it, I was like, this isn't that bad. I don't know why everyone hates it so much. Watching it the second time really did it for me to say, hey, this movie sucks. And on that note, what are we watching next week, Carter?
Oh boy. So, next week, we will be watching Oculus.
Oh, you've been dying to do that one.
I do.
Can you tell the people how they can watch it?
Yes, I can. But first, let me tell you, I love Karen Gillan.
Oh, yes.
She is in the movie, and
Karen?
I'm in love with her.
What year is this movie from? 2013. I love Karen Gillan. I'm super excited for this, actually.
I love Karen Gillan as much as someone can love Karen Gillan without, seeing Jumanji. I'm sure there are people in her life who care more about her and are willing to see it, but that's not me.
You haven't seen Jumanji?
Funny enough, love Jack Black, love Kevin Hart, love Karen Gillan, love The Rock. Not really interested in seeing Jumanji.
You left Nick Jonas off that list.
There's no way Nick Jonas was in Jumanji. That doesn't
Nick Jonas
right.
is in Jumanji.
I don't believe you. That's not true.
All right, well, we're going to take a break so Carter
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, I am right.
What the fuck? And Danny DeVito and Danny Glover.
Danny DeVito's in it?
Apparently.
Oh, he might be in the second one.
Yeah, I'm looking at the second one.
Nick Jonas was in the first.
Okay, well, he's also in the second.
Great.
Nick Jonas and Jack Black, Jumanji. What is that nonsense?
I have no
idea.
idea.
Music video. All right.
Wait a minute.
We are getting off track. We're watching Oculus. I love Karen Gillan. How will I watch Oculus?
You can watch Oculus on Pluto TV for free. You can watch it on Hulu with a subscription.
We made it so far before we came off the rails this episode.
We did okay. There's a huge middle off the rails section where we talk about Matthew. What do you mean?
That's her fault, though.
You can also watch it on Amazon Prime Video with a subscription, and anywhere else you watch movies for $2.99.
I would say Amazon Prime is your best bet.
Well,
so
Pluto is your best bet because it's free.
That's fair. So I will say, Oculus has long been an interest of mine. I still, to this day, I saw it like 6 years ago, maybe. I cannot tell you, gun to my head, I can't tell you if it's a good movie. I still can't make up my mind.
I can give a theme right now.
Mirrors.
No, the theme is that this podcast is about bad movies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we don't review good movies unless we accidentally do so.
A happy little accident.
Every so often we do.
Okay, and with that, anything else?
Yeah. Take care of your teeth, floss them, brush them, and don't use them to open bottles or cans.
And of course,
stay spooky.
Horror Sucks is brought to you by Wild Thing Media. Music and production done by me, and all editing done by Carter. Thanks so much for listening, and check us out on Instagram at Horror Sucks Podcast.